Yeah. All right, here we go. Okay, so if we want to look at the country that brought us our origins to why we do the things the way we do, should we study Italian law as how it goes? Were they the ones who took over and set up our colonies? Who was it? England. Okay? So we would want to look at the origins of English law to see why. Do you think the colonists came over and says, well, you know, we're going to completely change everything? Or do you think they came over and set up with a grant of land from the king and say, well, now that he gave us a grant of land, we're going to do everything opposite than what he wants us to do? Or do you think that they would follow the ideas that were set up in the mother country? And the mother country is called England, right? So at the very beginning, 1609, Jamestown, they're already bringing over some ideas about government. Who can tell me what ordered government is? Good, like what? Okay, order within our society. Is there certain things that we have to do certain steps you have to take, like you don't call the guy who mows the lawn at the park to be my coroner, do you? So we have certain people we call to take care of whatever issue or whatever relationship there is. That's ordered government. What do we get without order in our society, Luke? Chaos. Chaos, good. You have to have some order in order for things to run smoothly within your society. True? Yes. Okay, good. So we understand there's offices like sheriff, okay? Or we have police officers. We have other things going on that takes care of those issues for us. Okay. So what is limited government? What's full-on limited government? Go. Say what?
Government is restricted in what it may do.
Government is restricted. Was it always like that? No. In fact, is this something we would say that it developed? What's another word for developed over time? Evolved. Very good. Who said that? Nice job. It evolved over time. Something that developed these differences that we have. So we have a limited government. If we look in 1600s, would limited government mean the same thing as now? No, it would be something different. But it's still a restriction on what the government can do. It doesn't have all-out authority, at least in our country, over everything that we do. Right? It's restricted in how much it can tell us what to do. And we check that all the time, don't we? That guy overstepped his bounds. We have checks and balances to keep it restricted and limited. How about representative government? Good. Good. The will of the people. What's another way we can say that? Like the Mayflower Compact. Mayflower Compact, how did it word it? Not will of the people. And John Locke worded it that way too. Consent? Huh? Of the governed. Yes, consent of the governed. What does consent mean? Our permission. Remember that. Consent means that we give them permission to do whatever they do. Okay? Only with our consent can the government do anything. Do we act on that all the time? Would you say that we act on that? I don't think so. I think we have decided to become apathetic. Tell me what apathy means, Connor. Huh? Anybody else? It means we just don't care. Who cares? What's the number one way to stop a democracy from working? Apathy. People stop caring, the government falls. What's the next step after every democracy? Huh? Dictatorship. Because you don't care, great, we'll take over and tell you what to do. You have to care. I try my best every year to get people to try to care about what's going on within our government. We focus on those elections. We focus on everything because it's with your consent that we can do things. But it's with your apathy that we fail. Do you get it? Our I could care less attitude has got to stop. This is something so important. Okay? Suddenly, the idea of focusing on me ends. And the focusing on what's going on to my country has to start. You follow? Because all that little me stuff disappears when the government goes. Right? Have we seen it in history before? Have we seen it in history before? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's something to think about. We have to be willing to become involved for this to work. Okay. How did the Magna Carta affect English government? First of all, we need to hear the story of the Magna Carta. Anybody know how that all happened? What all came about?
Well, the barons came to the king and
So German barons came in and talked to the French king.
now the English barons talked to their king,
Okay.
English king.
Who was the king anyway? King John. No, not close enough. You're a few hundred years off. Anyway.
And they were concerned that he can like put huge or heavy taxes on them without their like
Consent.
consent.
Okay.
Military like
But now if a king during the divine right theory is actually a voice box for God and is a God himself on earth, that's their thinking anyway, should he have to listen to anybody else? Should he be able to do whatever he wants? Is that the thinking? It is the thinking at the time, but you and I both know that's not right. So the Magna Carta, how many of you know the Robin Hood story? Robs from the rich and gives to the poor. Who was the king in Robin Hood?
it changes a little bit. There's so many different parts, but it changes.
John.
But it changes.
Who was King John's brother? King Richard the Lionhearted. Good. King Richard the Lionheart goes off to fight in the Crusades. His brother is left behind. King John is somebody who is losing land in France. He is also using arbitrary ways to control the people. He is also imposing huge taxes to pay for Richard and to pay for the losses and the military. He's not gaining anything. He's losing ground. Okay? The barons at that time, those under him, first under him, say, we have had enough of this. Okay? You're throwing people in prison for no reason, and you're holding them indefinitely without a trial. You are not doing fair things. You're acting above what normal humans would do. And he goes, I'm a king. So they come up with this English document written in Latin, right? And they sit down. It's called the Magna Carta, or the Great Charter. It's a contract between the king and the barons, his subjects. Does it have anything to do with the common people? Do you think it has something to do with the common people at that time in 1215? No. It's just for the barons. Common people have no rights. They're serfs or peasants or, tinkers, whatever. Okay? So, they write this document, Magna Carta. And what did it give us? Tell me what some of the Magna Carta gave us, those original ideas. First of all, this idea right here, where it says, what did they say about the king? Yes, he's not a god. He is not above the law. No man is above the law. How does someone who, and a whole group all across Europe, how do you suppose the kings would respond to hearing that they really aren't, a god themselves? You think they would respond well to that? No. Okay, secondly, what else did we get? Fair trial. Due process of law. Yeah, the due process, which says I'm not just going to throw you in there for no reason and hold you indefinitely. Okay? So goes the dungeon. All right. So when he signs this, he didn't care a whole bunch. He just kind of goes, okay, whatever. And the other kings that followed, some thought it was okay, some did not. It just depended on the king that followed. Okay, we move on to, in the 1600s, a new king comes in from Scotland. And from Scotland comes a guy by the name of James I, James Stuart. James Stuart was a king that came down and put into position, and on his way down there, he finds a pickpocket, or they catch one, and to show how powerful he was, he had him hanged for pickpocket. That's a pretty harsh punishment, isn't it? He's also the one that said, if God himself appoints me as king, then he has made me a god myself on earth. Right? And that was his big push. His son, Charles I, is fighting battles. During this time, I need you to understand something. If we look at Parliament, was there a Parliament during the Magna Carta in 1215? What does parley mean? Anybody know what parley? Talk. Parliament meant the talking place. It starts out with just simple nobles, those barons, coming together and just simply being an advisor for the king. But as time grows, it becomes more and more and more as a representative of the people as well as just the barons. You end up with two houses. It's called bicameral, right? It's within your reading. Is that right? Okay. Did you really read it? Okay. Bicameral meaning two houses. There's the House of Lords, okay, those that are those big family people, and then you have the regular folks, House of Commons, okay? King Charles I doesn't like Parliament. He doesn't like being told what to do. So he calls a session because he needs money to go fight a battle. He calls a session of Parliament. Okay, in our country we'd call it Congress, but it's Parliament. He brings them in. He gets the tax money he wants. He dissolves them. What does dissolves them mean? No, he didn't pour acid on them. No, he told them, you're done. Go back to your homes. You're done. You're not doing any more of this. He had the power to do that at that time. Okay? So he calls back Parliament again. He says, I need more money. They said, fine. However, you are not to dissolve us. And he goes, who are you to tell me what to do? And he gets his money and dissolves them. The next time he comes back, however, he says, I'm going to bring you back in Congress or Parliament, and I want some tax money because I got to go fight another battle. And they said, fine, however, you're going to sign a document, and you will not dissolve us. What's that document? The 1600s? What did the Petition of Right basically do? Good, and there's more to it, though. Okay? What else is in there? Okay, the limit of power that was placed here, did it increase? Yeah. Now, here's the thing to think about. Basically, a lot of that is changing from just the nobles in the Magna Carta being rewritten and revised into something called the Petition of Rights, which gives us due process, and it gives us trial by jury, limits the king farther than he was, right? And that's what that was all about. However, he goes ahead and tries to dissolve them anyway. Civil war breaks out, and Lord Oliver Cromwell steps through, wins the battles. They cut the head off of Charles I, and Oliver Cromwell runs the military state. And they said that he was probably getting close to being just as much of a tyrant as Charles I by the time he died. When he dies, guess what Parliament does in their infinite wisdom? Does anybody know what they did next? Yeah. Yeah. Here they got rid of a king because he was a tyrant and he wasn't listening. But not only that, they go and they find in France Charles II. Charles I, the king they cut the head off of, they find his son. We really need a king. Will you please come in and be our king? Seriously? They didn't even make him sign any documents. He had to follow the Petition of Right. However, Here they call him back up. They got to stay with bloodlines. Well, Charles has a boy named James II. James II, Charles II was kind of a partier. James II was kind of a, I'll do what I want. Okay? And so when he does what he wants, Parliament calls up the husband of Charles I's, or Charles II's daughter, Mary. William and Mary of Orange from Denmark. I already talked to Daniel about it. You don't need to. All right, anyway. William of Orange is asked to come down and remove James II, remove him out of office and take control of the throne because they would stay with their bloodlines, right? Yeah, the inbred bloodlines of all through Europe. They come down, they roll up on the shores, and they call it the Glorious Revolution because James II scoots. He's done. William of Orange and Mary take over the throne, but they aren't allowed to until they sign something called... Now, with all of these documents, the English Bill of Rights, and you squeeze all those together, what do we call that contract between the people and the government? Constitution. It's their social contract. Thank you. Their social contract. Basically, that's some pretty big stuff, right? Because now what they've done is they turned their abusive tyrant king into a constitutional monarchy. Okay? The king still has power. Right now, the queen, her power is to say, yes, I approve the prime minister. That's about it. And to do this. Queen Elizabeth, while Charles stands in the background going, is she ever going to die? He wants to be king so bad. Right? But his mom's like, she'll be 200 before he'll die before he gets to take over the throne. She's in her 80s or 90s, I think. So I'm not sure, but she's still spry. Right? Queen Elizabeth II. So, how about these things right down here? Tell me about the royal colonies. Pretty simple stuff. He set up colonies where? Who has control over the colonies? The king. And it's pretty common sense. Right? Royal. How about proprietary? Yep. No, that's in the royal. But the proprietary is land grants by the king to run how they choose. Right? How about a charter? What's another word for charter? Contract. What, say it. Contract. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Contract. It's a contract between the king and the people that are living there within that area. What were most of the colonies? Royal. Under direct control, the governor, he would appoint a governor, but the governor was supposed to rule according to the king's rules, according to the king's thinking. Is that always true? Do you think that they're always going to be honest and fair and upright and do exactly the right thing? Or do you suppose there might be even payoffs and different things? It's kind of crazy how that all works. Any questions for me over this? Tomorrow we get to watch a movie called, it's a gripping drama, The Road from Runnymede.